So if you want to know what you really think about yourself or how you really feel about yourself, look at your habits, look at your priorities, look at your self-care routine, look at the way that you think about your diet. There might still be something in the background that is telling you that you need to do these things because of something negative about yourself, or because you're not good enough, or because you're not lovable, right? Some of these core wounds that we have. Creating an environment and a lifestyle that serves you so that you can be healthy and strong and feel good and happy and centered every day, then you get to go out into the world and do your best work.
I like what she's saying. She's talking very shrinky about like what we surround ourselves with, like what mirrors, like even our car, our house, our friends mirror our state of life, who we are. So you can tap into that and realize where you can improve, not in the direction of doing your best work. Who cares? Work is just an invention by man. No animal works. The thing is that there is something that you want out of your life, and that's probably harmony, well-being, inner peace, and some decisions, some habits, some people that you might decide to surround yourself with will help you better get there than others.
Okay. Hey everyone. I have been doing a lot of thinking, a little bit of taking a break from social media, like I mentioned in the last video, just to think and to work on myself a little bit. And sometimes it's
You don't ever need to work on yourself. Just like you were, I think, mentioning just before, you are good just the way you are. As long as you are well biochemically, and that depends on what you consume, there's nothing that you need to work on yourself. You don't see cows going on to these courses of personal development and whatnot, or reading Eckhart Tolle or something, because it's only necessary when you're biochemically messed up, like we are, because we are the only species in the world consuming food that has been developed in labs and mass produced in factories, and that we, instead of following our natural instinct and only eating what we naturally feel inclined to from what is available in nature and in its natural form, we actually mix and match and all these, and then we expect good results. Can't possibly be.
good to just step away from creating and putting stuff out there and, just
Creating and putting stuff out there, just like I consider I'm doing through my videos as well, or through the bunch of projects I've done in the past, should be just a consequence, unless you really need it because you have a life that has very big expenses, very big bills, and you need to pay them. But for as long as you basically downsize and you go bare bones and you actually just need a place to sleep in, maybe a mode of transport, maybe a phone and food, that's basically it, all you need, then I mean, most of the work that you do should be out of your instinct, out of what you feel like doing. Some people feel like painting, some people feel like playing the piano, some people feel like singing, some people feel like trimming the bushes, and maybe. And the thing is, if you feel like actually instinctively like doing something, why don't you put that as your career? Why don't you just make a career out of that? Mine for now is not making money, my YouTube, but it's still what I'm doing as a profession, which is a result of who I am and not the other way around. If you have to choose something to do because you feel like doing, why isn't it something that is aligned with you? And if it's aligned with you, why do you even have to think about it? You just do it. It just occurs to you to just, let me record this, let me do that, let me paint that. It just comes out of you, just like a child might arrange a play and he might make a theater just at home, just out of his own will.
The monotony of anything that you do, to try to just get a clear head and figure out what's next. And
you don't ever need to figure out what's next, as in the next big step. You just need to figure out the next small step, as in if you feel like eating, is there food in the fridge? No, I need to go to the butcher. If you feel like going for a walk, is it raining? Oh, okay, I'm gonna put a coat over me. That's the only thing you really need to plan ahead, the next few steps. And if your mind is already tinkering about, oh, so I've been doing videos about, for example, architecture, and now I want to dabble into design, for example. And that's tinkering in your head. You might plan the day in which you are going to start and the type of content you want to address, but that's it.
that's kind of what I want to talk about today in this video, is just about the idea of choosing yourself and carving out space for yourself.
No wild animal is thinking about this, and yet they all do this instinctively.
To grow and to think about things in your life and to reevaluate situations and to really kind of tune out the outside world, retreat into your little cave, whatever you want to call it.
Naturally, you never tune out. You're always in contact with whatever is surrounding you. But also, there is the fact that you're naturally just surrounded by your family, by your blood-connected people. Even your spouse or your husband in nature will be blood-related to you, because it's all within a tribe, and animals do that as well. So yeah, you would be always naked if it's a good environment, if it's warm, but only in the company of your family. This having friends that are from other families and whatnot, this is not tendentially natural.
To just figure out what the next step is for you, or prepare for something that's upcoming. Like for many of us, the holiday season coming up is really challenging, right? There's a lot of temptation, there's a lot of social pressure, there's a lot of opportunities to
if you're biochemically well, if your gut biome is stable, and since it is your gut biome that basically controls you, not controls you, but basically guides you towards doing stuff, why would it guide you to eat a bunch of crap or to fall into peer pressure? No reason.
Stay away from our diet, from our health goals, all those kinds of things. And for some of us, maybe it's not as big of a deal, right? If you've been on this way of eating for a couple years, 3 years, something like that, maybe it's not a big deal to you anymore. But for many people it is. And it doesn't have to be the holidays for us to want to kind of take a break or to prepare to enter into a new season of life, right? I think that's pretty natural to try to...
I love the oxymoron. It's pretty natural to try to examine your thoughts. No animal is examining their thoughts, sorry to say.
Examine our thoughts, our emotions, our behaviors from time to time, and see where do we need an adjustment, where are things working, and where are things not working so.
That is different. If you, even naturally, if you are like, man, there is no abundance here, I need to go move to a place where there is more cattle or more whatever that I can feed myself on, or oh, this is too windy, let's find a rock shelter nearby that is not the one we've been sleeping in, for example. But that's changing your environment, not changing yourself. If you eat well, if you consume things that are in accordance to you, you're always well.
And that's kind of what I've been doing. And I've really come to this shift in my mindset that I've never really had before, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And it's this idea of choosing yourself first. And I know right off the bat, for some of you, there may be some dissonance with that, and I want you to hear me out because this isn't selfish.
She's right. I mean, selfishness is when you want to force your view onto others. As in, for example, my mother wants to go to church and she wants me to go with her. No, if you want to go to church, go. I'll allow you that freedom. But don't rob me from my freedom of not going. Selfishness is to force others to do what you want them to do. To prioritize yourself, as in to trust your instincts and follow them, as in do what you feel like doing, even if people don't like it. For example, people might say, "Oh, good morning, John." If you don't feel like responding, just don't. Just like any kid does.
It's not about being selfish. It's not about putting yourself above anyone else or saying that I'm the only person that matters and so I'm always going to choose myself first. What this really is understanding how you truly feel about yourself, how you're treating yourself.
If you don't treat yourself well, you will never be able to treat others well. This is a rule of life.
You're talking to yourself, how you are functioning throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout your life, and how all that relates to your sense of self-love, your sense of self-worth, your confidence, all those kinds of things.
All those kinds of things are a product of your biome, are a product of your biochemical state, nothing more.
And I think this is really interesting. And so one of the things that I've been doing is looking at my routines and my habits and thinking about how those routines and habits, or lack thereof, reflect how I truly feel about myself. Because when you think about it,
oh my God, so much thinking, so much pondering, so much reflection. Sure, if you are going to bed at extremely late compared to what's natural, if you are waking up way too late, if you are eating factory food, highly processed, whatever, if you don't feel well, you have to realize that there is something that you need to adjust. Sure, but that's it. You don't need to become someone else. You just need to surround yourself with a more natural environment.
What you end up doing every day, the things that we do routinely, the habits that we do, or the things that we just don't make time for, the things that we say that we want to do or that we want to incorporate into our lives, but we don't for some reason, or we struggle.
Here we come into the word I might call laziness. If you feel like doing something, like you really want to, genuinely, you want to go for a walk, but you just don't have the energy, man, you're eating the wrong foods, or you're consuming whatever wrong from your skin, or you're breathing, or not resting properly, something like that. If you are well, you always have the energy and the will and the mind clarity to do everything that you want to do. My question is, are you actually thinking of doing something which you don't actually want to do? As in, I should read more books. Man, but I just don't have the will to. Just don't read them. Who cares about books? It's just words on a paper, words by someone. It's not truth. The only truth is what you can verify through your senses.
All those things are reflections of what we actually think inside. So if you want to know what you really think about yourself or how you really feel,
even though it's true, who cares what you think about yourself or not? You deep down, if you think about it, if you ask yourself, have I been treating myself ideally? Yes or no? If yes, continue whatever you're doing. If not, just go more natural.
About yourself, look at your habits, look at your priorities, look at your self-care routine, look at the way that you think about your diet, right? Or your exercise routine or your sleep.
Exercise routine. Nobody should be exercising. Exercise means exertion. Exertion means stress. Stress means strength. Strength means you're basically destroying your body, destroying your mind, basically aging unnecessarily. Sleep hygiene, what the hell is that? Sleep hygiene? Is that your pillow is clean? You shouldn't even be wearing a pillow. Where to start?
Think about your diet.
You see, she knows what it is. You have to think about your diet, right? Yes, right. If you follow your instinct, let's imagine you put yourself in the wilderness. There's no apple trees there, as in the ones that we have. There's no refrigerated meat there. There is no Twinkies there for sure. From the things that are available in nature, you might try to eat some roots. You won't find them pleasant. You'll spit them out. The leaves the same, the bark the same, the seeds the same. The only things that you will enjoy year-round will be eggs, if you find them, which might be a rarity, and meats, especially fatty, especially red. And if it's autumn, as in after summer, before the winter, you will find some berries and some things that you might call fruits, although they have no resemblance to what you find in supermarkets, and even in your mother's tree, if that's the case. And you will find some honeycombs that you can go and eat. This is it. This is a natural diet. If you follow it, you'll always be biochemically well.
Right? Or your exercise routine, or your sleep hygiene, or any of these other lifestyle factors that we talk about all the time from a kind of sciencey, why it's good perspective, right?
It's good because your senses tells you that it's pleasant, that it's comfortable. Warmth is good for us because we crave it. Pleasantness, as in taste, is good for us because we crave it. A goat finds leaves pleasant, we don't. You don't need to read any book, you just have to follow your senses.
But sometimes we can look at these habits as things that we have to do almost from a negative place, right? Like, I have to do this because it's the right thing to do. I have to do this because everyone else is doing it. I have to do this because this is kind of what my community is doing, or what my community seems to value, or what I think my next step should be based on sort of that external influence, whatever that
Girl, why are you feeling so pressured about these external influences? You cannot possibly biochemically
is in our lives. And
but you're
that
totally right.
typically doesn't work, right? That type of motivation typically doesn't stick with us for very long.
Because you're just rationally saying, oh, this is good for me, let's go for it. It's like eating kale. Oh, kale is good for me because I read in a paper. Of course, it's unnatural and you have to put discipline towards it, and like exercise, like anything that is not good for you. Because it's so artificial, it's so not good for you, that you need to force yourself to do it. You need to discipline yourself to do it. Natural things don't need discipline, you just naturally are inclined to do it.
Right? It's an extrinsic motivation. Sometimes it can work for a while, but eventually you kind of come to this place where you're going, I don't enjoy doing this. These habits aren't sticking with me. I'm having trouble sticking with them. And I think that's when it's time to really sit down and take a couple weeks or so and just
and do a retreat in the mountains where you say and you meditate for 3 hours every morning, 3 hours at noon, and 3 hours at dawn. Then you talk with Buddha himself through your pineal gland. I mean, I'm joking, I don't think this girl is is gonna promote that, but I know a lot of people who do this and think this is the way. It's only lost people who do that.
Look at, what are my patterns? What are my habits? What am I doing and why? And why am I not finding time or room in my schedule or my life to do these other things that I feel are truly important or that I want to incorporate? And this coming up on the new year, again, I'm an early goal setter. I love
Never set goals. Grab a piece of paper and write down what you want your life to be in the present. I wake up refreshed and energized. I am happy that I'm alive. Whenever I feel like eating, I eat. I feel super filled, super fulfilled, super at peace with myself. I rest whenever I feel like. I sunbathe and sungaze whenever I feel like. I enjoy the sunrise. I enjoy the sunset. I play with animals. Something like that. I mean, describe your feelings. I feel comfortable in my own skin. I feel totally at peace with myself when I am surrounded by others that have different perspective from me, etc., etc. That's the only goal setting that you should be doing. From Mike's perspective, I just put that after I finish, I just put that in a drawer, I forget about it, and like 4 months later, I realized like that thing that I wrote, it happened. It's my reality now. I mean, a couple years ago, all I dreamed about was to basically giving my opinion, my perspective onto others, and now it's a reality.
To think about.
And all it needed was for me to shift my perspective. A computer was here all along. I mean, I could have done this years ago, but only now did my ideas and life align for me to do it. So don't pressure yourself, don't give yourself a year to do it. Just have that idea of what you want out of yourself, and it has to be harmonious and natural and easy and suave, but then just trust, like Steve Jobs says, trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future.
New Year's, and
that what you've been doing until now is going to help you when you reach what you want out of your life, whether it's a marriage, kids. I mean, who doesn't want that truly deep down when you're well?
Setting goals ahead of time. And so that's also kind of what I've been doing the last few weeks. And so
the last few weeks, I've been just wondering and wondering and wondering, what should I do with my life? Girl, I mean, look at you. You are very pretty. I cannot say the same for me. So it's easier for you, for people to trust your words. I cannot say the same for me. I don't know if you're married and have kids, but if that's not the case, that is certainly very easy for you to get. I mean, just start eating naturally, just like I mentioned, and everything else will fall into place. Just trust me.
The stuff I've been listening to and reading through lately has been talking.
If you want to read or listen to something, listen to or read to Joe Dispenza. He shows you the value of having a good vibe, because if you don't have a good vibe, nothing can work. When we hear about karma, we might think, oh, I was robbed. I never robbed anybody, but you've always robbed yourself.
About this, and I was a little bit uncomfortable with it at first. That was sort of the idea that came into my mind first, was like, oh, that's being selfish, or why would I spend more time doing self-care or things like that. Like, that's I don't have time for that, right? I don't have time for that. I'm trying to incorporate all these habits already that I can't.
Don't get me wrong, even though I think self-care is a waste of time, and I did 5 years of personal development courses. So I know from personal perspective. It's not like I'm being an hypocrite and just saying without knowing, without experiencing things, without reading books, without having passed through that. None of that ever fixed how I felt. I felt way worse than you're describing. And the only thing that fixed was eating and consuming properly. You cannot be wearing deodorants. You cannot be using perfumes and shampoos and all these hormone and endocrine disruptors, because they have an effect on you.
seem to fit into my routine. Why would I spend more time doing that, right? It seems
What you shall do, if you feel inclined towards it. I mean, if you're lazy but you actually want to do it, just slightly for yourself. You might have some whatever, you're still not well, but you actually want to do it. Go for some walks in nature and let your mind roam if it wants to roam. But don't be like you're being a mean parent to yourself. Thank God you're yeah, if you are not a mother still. Do you realize how tough are you on yourself? Always like slap, slap. How it's like a whip. You have always a whip. Are my habits good? Are my habits good? Are my habits good? Should I swap something out of my life? Ah, the winter is coming up. Christmas is coming up. I cannot allow myself to eat those sweets. Schlaf, schlaf, schlaf. What the hell? Even though sweets might not be ideal, fruit, honey might hate you a little bit. It's not terrible. I mean, enjoy yourself. Who cares?
like that should go to the very back of
As long as it's natural. I mean, if you're gonna get some gummy bears, then you're gonna feel like ADD or whatever. All your biochemical state is gonna go mad.
the list. But what I've been realizing and what I've been learning is that,
Or
like Jordan
anyone.
Peterson would say, if you take care of yourself like you would somebody that you love,
Just like I was saying, you're just weeping. If you have a child and you were always, my little baby, are you good with your habits? I mean, what a bummer. Just leave yourself alone, just like you would leave your baby alone, because you want the best for him. And because you want the best for him, you allow him to follow his senses, his intuition. If you feel just like laying down, let him lay down. Let yourself lay down, etc., etc.
cared for, that's actually a good thing.
By the way, Jordan Peterson is not biochemically well. He isn't doing the carnivore diet well. He might be doing way too cooked, thus he doesn't get all of the micronutrients, nor the macro. He might be adding too much salt, maybe. He might be adding too little fat. He might be consuming too little connective tissue. I mean, all those can be reasons for failing carnivore, but he is for sure failing. He's always crying in videos, and he has aged way too rapidly.
And it's good because if you don't truly love your,
Of course, he feels much better than the diets he was doing before. He's like a vegan that came from SAD diet. Of course, he feels better on veganism because he was on the worst of the worst, and he just jumped one step of the ladder. I mean, if you do what I say, you will see what's the top of the ladder. Some people even say there is a higher if you just go for organs of healthy animals and blood, but I mean, I still can't wrap my head around that. I might have some goat brain, which is amazing, but that's as much as far as I go, because even kidneys, I had the ruminant kidneys the other day and my joints started hurting.
self and take care of yourself like you would somebody that you actually loved and cared about, how can you genuinely do that for other people? It really is.
If you treat yourself well, you'll treat the other people well, just consequently. If you feel like someone is because you are doing that to yourself, don't fool yourself. You're not fooling me.
This whole idea of the way we talk to ourselves, the way we treat ourselves, that is what we're putting out towards other people. And that might not seem like it correlates in the beginning, but trust me, if you change some of your
sorry for putting myself in the personal life or whatever. Naturally, if you ate well in nature, if you were an animal, you'd already have like 10, 15 children, something like that. I mean, we naturally become fertile at around 12. So, I mean, do you see what our life ends up being? I basically passed all my teens and all my 20s with this sort of doubling in my mind, you are doing the same. I mean, I might not have the potential to find the amazing mate, as in visually and genetically, but you have. Just go live your life. Just start eating well and everything.
Habits around if you're not doing this stuff and you try adding in some meditation time or some prayer time.
Yeah, some prayer. I mean, prayer comes from setting an how do you say in English? You have something that you want to become true, as in it's not intuition, it's not intention. You have an intention. That's why I told you to write down in the paper. Some people call that manifesting, whatever. You write down your intentions in the present as if they are already true. And that's all. Because when you pray, you can pray. Who are you praying to? Imaginary people that you read about in books? That's... I hope you find whatever I've been saying valuable, that you try it out, that you really fix your diet. I mean, if you cannot make carnivore work, that, I mean, any natural human being can and does make carnivore work 3 seasons out of the year. But if you can't, go animal based. There is plenty of fiber there for you to feed your biome, since you might not be able to fix through the connective tissue in carnivore, because a lot of people think it's just a little bit of skin or whatever. No, you will crave a lot more. But, I mean, doing animal based, which will age your teeth, and I mean, just don't touch the dairy, is still 10 times better, even though it's only natural for the autumn, than whatever you're doing right now. Because whatever you're doing right now is hating yourself. Thanks for watching.